Essentially, you've got the head of state whom has said that political parties must now put their differences aside and collaborate in order for the betterment of the futures and the livelihoods of South Africans, particularly when you look at the deplorable state and the socio-economic divide that exists in the country. You look at the plight that the people of Soweto, Mzwandile informal settlement, people in deep rural KwaZulu-Natal, in areas like Danhauser, in areas like Umshwati, Appelsport, Greytown, and also in affluent areas like your Umhlanga Rocks, like your midstream estates and other estates that are there, and the northern suburbs where services also need to be provided. But in essence, the president was also paving the way in saying that political parties, let's come to the table, let's discuss, let's have something of a government of national unity that existed in the era of former President Nelson Mandela, as much as it did not say it like that. But you look at the coalition discussions that are taking place, was in essence saying DA, ANC, EFF, all other political formations, let's come together. With the coalition talks going on and where Gwede Mantashe was last night, it tells you that the two big political parties have something in stock.
Is this perhaps a way, you remember he repeated that statement of working together. Is he perhaps trying to tell us that the parties which we thought they would never work together are talking and they will work together? I know he's discharging his duties as the head of state, but of course, there's a job to be done as party president.
Cyril Ramaphosa is an enigma. You can never truly read him. He's a person whom speaks and says so many things, but there's the DA presser as well later today. Just immediately once the crowds have dispersed, who have converged here. He's an enigma, and in his speech, it was laced with so much politics, particularly when he says political parties must come together. Local government is not about political ideologies. It's about service delivery to the people. It's not about policy formulation, but it's about implementation. It's about housing. It's about making sure that you're creating jobs. So in essence, he was saying DA, ANC, all other parties, let's talk. But with the discussions that are taking place last night, and Tony Leon, the former leader of the DA, jetting into Gauteng early this morning to speak on the ANC-DA coalition of voting agreements, and with the DA being clear that they're not going to work with the EFF, and Paul Mashatile of the ANC, the TG, clearly saying that they will not be giving the EFF any mayors in the metros, clearly shows you that the two big political parties, whom are the biggest losers in this election, mind you, the PR that the Democratic Alliance is doing. There are so many hung councils in the Western Cape. There are 25 councils in the Western Cape. 16 of them are hung. You go to KwaZulu-Natal, there are many councils which are also hung. You come to the metros, they are hung. The biggest losers, the two big political parties, they're seemingly going to be working together.
In a moment, the DA will be speaking to the media. In fact, you'll be covering that event. What do you think they will tell us?
In essence, they'll say that whom they've been speaking to or whom have approached them, what is their approach going to these local government elections. We do know that the former leaders of the Democratic Alliance, Tony Leon, he's back in the fold of the DA, and he was very instrumental in getting rid of Musima Imani and also of Ethel Twalip, who resigned in collaboration and in disappointment that Musima Imani had been removed. So Tony Leon is back in the forefront, and he will be leading the negotiations for the Democratic Alliance for these coalition governments. And it's going to be interesting, knowing very well that the ANC has tasked its own Gwede Mantashe to lead those negotiations on a national level with the Democratic Alliance, having met with them last night here in Pretoria.
Let's zone in on Johannesburg. Where does that put Herman Mashaba, the former mayor, who performed relatively well?
Herman Mashaba was given a platform to be the executive mayor by the Democratic Alliance. He used it very well. He did an excellent job, in the words of citizens, as we are seeing with the PR allocation and the votes that he was receiving in the city of Johannesburg. But the Democratic Alliance will not support Herman Mashaba to be the executive mayor of the city of Johannesburg because they feel as if he's done them bad. And they would rather take the Action SA votes but have someone else like Michael Beaumont as the mayoral candidate in the city of Johannesburg. But the conundrum then comes. The DA wants Gqeberha, Port Elizabeth, Nelson Mandela Bay. The ANC wants Johannesburg. The DA does not want Ekurhuleni because there are too many issues to deal with in the city of Johannesburg and Ekurhuleni Tshwane is also a prized jewel that the DA wants.
Yeah.
And they've made strong inroads in looking at the voter turnout over the years.
Yeah.
But the Freedom Front Plus, which is the same constituency as them, is eating into their votes. So these two political parties, the DA and the ANC, would not want to work with political parties that they share the same constituency, because they'll be going back to fight for the same votes in future. So why not work with two parties that have come from two different constituencies that will complement one another and work for their different constituencies in order to try and regrow their votes come the 2024 national election, which also paves the way for coalition government in the economic hub of the country, Gauteng.
Is this the start of the realignment in the political landscape of the country? I mean, never before has the governing party dipped below 50%, but of course we've seen this happen, so clearly something is going on here.
Realignment in South African politics began 3 years ago. It was no mistake Cyril Ramaphosa became the ANC president, looking at how his campaign was funded. There was no surprise where you had Helen Zille coming back to the forefront of the DA. There's an audio clip that Helen Zille spoke here in Johannesburg that was doing the rounds, where she said the DA would rather work with an ANC of Cyril Ramaphosa.
I actually would like to stop you right there, because I think the DA very soon will be going to give us that press briefing so that you can be able to join that. Well, it's quite interesting. I mean, the discussion that Samkele and I are having here, it's quite looking at what has been happening. But of course, as you have said, the DA, actually they say, I need to continue with you, Samkele, a little bit. So, the DA, once Nelson Mandela, Helen Zille stayed there for about 7 weeks. And then they are slightly ahead. Do you think the ANC will agree in exchange of Tshwane or Johannesburg?
The ANC would agree, because the ANC regionally, their regional leadership is not up to par when it comes to Nelson Mandela Bay. There's a lot of infighting within that region. Their region in Tshwane is a mess, if their region exists at all. You've got allegations of Boko Haram going on in Mamelodi, gangsterism. So they would want to field their strongest candidates in municipalities where they've got largely stable regional executives of the governing party. They may agree to Gqeberha, Nelson Mandela Bay. They may agree to Tshwane, but they would want in exchange to keep Ekurhuleni, to keep Johannesburg, and the conundrum then becomes, eThekwini, the ANC is at 42%. There's the IFP, there's the Democratic Alliance. The IFP has said that they would want to reconcile with the ANC. In the words of their President Emeritus, the ANC and the IFP have been in a coalition in Johannesburg. The IFP was not pleased to be in a coalition with the DA because of the Big Brother syndrome. But with the IFP going into a coalition with the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal, it would not be the first coalition of its sort. It happened when the likes of Sibusiso Ndebele later on became the premier of KwaZulu-Natal because the province had been stuck.